around your neck. You can feel the warmth, yeah. As my kiss goes down, you like some sweet alcohol. Where I'm coming from, yeah. There's a darker side of me that
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Enterprise Matters this Friday, the 7th of May. And I'm delighted to have in the studio with me today somebody who I described in my post on LinkedIn as one of the most inspiring entrepreneurs globally, Mike Welch. How are you doing this Friday afternoon, Mike?
Not bad, Jeff, but all the better for that intro, mate. Thank you.
Oh, well, I've been working up to that for 20 years. It's nearly 20 years since I first met you. So I've been building up to give you this warm welcome to Enterprise Matters here at Young Enterprise Scotland. So we always start the same way with people. And there's no time to think on this. You just have to say which one is the best. So we've got some music for you first. Hopefully you can see this. We have an original Beatles single, or we have the Bunny Men. Oh, the Bunny Men. There we go. Beatles or Bunny Men? Beatles or Bunny Men?
Defo the Beatles.
Oh, Mike, you've gone right down there. I know you spend a lot of time in the States, and football's a big thing for you. And the only two scarves I have from the States are, that's probably the wrong way around, the Colorado Rapids or the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Maybe the Rapids, actually. Underdogs.
Underdogs. So a man for the underdogs. There we go. And the third one, I don't have anything physical, but I've just worked it out because you've spent probably around about half your life in Scotland now, haven't you?
All my adult life.
Yeah, so probably about half your life because you're about 31 now, aren't you?
24. Yeah.
24. But you've spent half your... So this is the one for you. A haggis supper or a plate of scouse?
Oh, both.
Both. Oh, well, you go. Anyway, that's great. It's great to have you here, Mike. And the theme for today is looking back in the half hour that we've got over the period in your life, and we're going to take three periods, three timelines in your life, and what we want to try and pick from that is a lesson learned from that specific period. And the first period I'd like to go into is you're 16, you're just leaving school, and you got your first job as a tyre fitter in Liverpool, and then I think you got made redundant from that, and you went to set up your own tyre business at the age of 16, 17, whatever it was, in Liverpool. Yeah. Tell us a bit about that experience in life and why you did it and how it went.
Well, I didn't really have any other choice, Jeff. I was, to say I left school is probably generous. I was invited to leave. And then, I had a job on the weekends fitting tyres. I was, really that was all I knew. So that was what I didn't have an epiphany that I was going to kind of try and make a big go of the tyre industry. It was just kind of what I knew. So that's what I did.
And you got a bit of help from the Prince's Trust, didn't you, to set that very first business up in Liverpool?
So then I was made redundant, yeah, and then I was looking for what next, and it was, my choices were pretty late. I could go and register on the dole, I could try and re-educate myself, or start a business, because there were no jobs where I was. So I started selling tyres to pals using the supplies I had, and the Prince's Trust gave me 500 quid for a computer, and that just got me moving. I built a website because I couldn't afford to run expensive ads, and I was just sending the URL to people.
And that must have been a really exciting time for you. But was it a nervous time as well, or was the blissfulness of youth and just everything was a challenge?
I think when you've not got many options, you kind of don't, you deal with the hand you dealt, I suppose, to a certain extent. And my granddad was like, there's nobody in this family's ever been on the dole. You're not going to be the first. Not there's anything wrong with this bit of social, but he's like, not over my dead body. So for me it was, look, I know tyres, I know suppliers, I had some pals there, they gave me a week's credit. And I like to sell stuff. I kind of had little enterprises in school, and selling sweeties, and I was actually selling. I get like a compilation CD for Christmas, and I'd print. Dad had a computer, I'd print kind of a cover for it. So plagiarize it, copy the compilation onto a tape, get blank tapes, and then sell them. And the neighbours would buy them, and they were terrible, absolutely awful. It was just like charity, but so I kind of always wanted to kind of, I like the idea of selling, and I like people. So it was talking to people and getting a break really was what got me into business, I suppose. And
did you have anybody around about you at that time, from family, friends, neighbours, who were very entrepreneurial, and they probably never used that word entrepreneurial, but they were always looking to make something, sell it, do a deal, hustle here, hustle there? Was there lots of people like that
in Liverpool, Jeff? There's loads of people like that.
So it was part of the DNA. Part of the DNA.
Yeah, the whole kind of in my family, no. My mum and dad were like, what do you do? Like, what are you up to now? So it was all, I enjoyed what I did, read lots of books. I've kind of started, when I started to kind of understand a bit about business, I was inspired by the Richard Bransons and guys like that. So I was reading books and started to, actually, this is really interesting. So I was kind of I was self-educating, I guess, and getting inspired that way. So, it was, I was getting through biographies, autobiographies, it was quick, every once a week. It was, at one point, it was brilliant.
And I'll come back to that book part later on, once you've come up to the Scottish borders, or once you moved into that part. But there was a funny story. I don't know if it's true or not, but mathematics wasn't your greatest subject at school, and you sat your GCSE and then you resat your GCSE. Is that correct? And
yeah, I'm dyslexic, so don't laugh too hard, Jeff. Come on, give me a break. But I got a D, and then I did a year's worth of restudy and managed to get an E. So I was like, I'm just not cut out for this. But I guess what I realized quite early on was, when I was being told to educate, if I wasn't really engaged, I just wasn't switching on to it. And it was only later on in life, when with the business, when I realized I needed to be able to count for a P&L, a cash flow, balance sheet. But I wanted to, I was interested. I wanted to know the answers. I wanted to get under the numbers, and then it all started to click. So I think for me, it was about, where there was an interest and where I could get excited. It was easy to apply myself, and I didn't find it too much of a struggle. But yeah, the school thing was just wasn't for me. And back then, the careers advice you were getting, was, you're going to go to university, work, be a labourer, kind of get a trade. And I just fell through the cracks, really. The whole kind of career's advice for me was pretty irrelevant.
But do you know that's part of our role at Young Enterprise Scotland, is very much that learning by doing. And I know you're a big advocate of that, and doing stuff and selling stuff. And it's the skills that young people develop through that activity within education, whether it's in primary, secondary, or tertiary education, that gives them some little added advantage in the future if they've not got that academic achievement, which might leverage them in a job. So tell me how you ended up in Edinburgh, because you had that business in Liverpool for a small time, and for people that don't know, you then took the big bold step up to Edinburgh. What brought you here? And I'm not asking whether it was a train or a car.
Yeah, no, I was my mum's cat. So I drove my mum's Ford Fiesta actually, and stayed in a travel lodge at South Queensferry because I was going to see QuickFit. They'd approached me because I'd kind of stumbled into the internet in 99, 97 or something, probably. And again, it was because I didn't have the capital to take magazine ads. I was trying to build a mail order, web, not a website, a mail order business for selling tires. And so I was in the magazines, but I was taking strip ads with the URL, and they were like, I was approached by the guys in the Midlands to say, look, we're trying to get into this internet thing, because it was like that then. It was kind of like, will you come and see us? Because we keep seeing your stuff, and I think it was a bit of a profile piece done. So went up to see them in Edinburgh. I met Tom Farmer, met the chief exec, met Graham Bissett, who was a fans director, later came on to be my chairman at Black Circles, and a great friend now. And I knocked them back. I said, well, that's not, I think I'm doing pretty well back down the road. And I said, it's probably not for me. It wasn't clear on exactly what the opportunity was. And then we carried on talking, and in the end, I said, what Tom actually said to me, look, you've not, it's something like, you've not quite made it academically, have you, son? He said, well, if you want it typically straight, if you want to, but if you want to learn, if this is your industry, you want to be, because I'm giving it all a big chat. I mean, I'm like 18, 19, I feel like I've done a lot. He said, look, if you want to be in this industry, you want to learn about this industry, then this is your university. This is where you need to be. So basically that's what happened. I think they paid me a small fee. I kind of packed up, moved up, and then I'm in Corstorphine Road in Murrayfield and doing e-commerce for QuickFit. So
no, and Tom Farmer is a man I know reasonably well. He was the president for Young Enterprise Scotland, El Presidente, for a good number of years. I remember in the previous organisation where I worked at Prince's Scottish Youth Business Trust, I remember the phone ringing. It was him, and he was trying to do something to help a young person. And he's, that's the sort of guy he was, and he came over and hosted a dinner for us as well. And the interesting thing was, he was going back from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and he was going to be just getting the train back to Edinburgh at whatever age he is now. And he was more interested in getting a lift with another young entrepreneur, Fraser Doherty, the Jam Boy, and off the word Bletherton all night.
He's a good guy. Did a lot for me.
A huge amount, and that was you sort of in Edinburgh now, and then about 2-3 years later, that's when I first met you, when you landed up in Peebles in the Scottish Borders. What was the motivation for Peebles?
Free money, I think. I was looking. I needed an office. I mean, so basically for the book QuickFit, I was then going between Detroit and Edinburgh. So bear in mind, a couple of years later, I'm under a car. A couple of years earlier, I'm under a car changing tires, and now I'm in Detroit with Forrester Research and this whole I mean, it was bananas. It was a great experience. Ford had really got very embedded in the QuickFit business, and I started to kind of get a feeling that I needed to kind of scratch the itch that was my own business and really.
Yeah.
So probably stupidly, I probably wouldn't do it now, but stupidly, maybe I decided to jack it all in with a month's salary in my pocket, and at that point a mortgage actually, and start again. So start, build a website and go and beg the suppliers for credit, and I needed an office. I didn't have enough money, so I went to Scottish Enterprise, and this basically it was like, right, okay, where have we got that will pay somebody to come? This is with all due respect to Peebles, because we had a fabulous love affair with Peebles, and it continues. And so they said at Scottish Enterprise Borders were like, you're welcome down here. Three months free rent, and I think some help hiring some people. And it was, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was the best move we could have made. We loved it down there.
No, it was a very vibrant estate there out at Cavalry Park outside Peebles, and that's when my first connection with you came, when I was also looking after Shell Livewire, the competition, and of course you got in touch and said, I'm going to enter that. I've never had so many phone calls from somebody who was participating in a just a local Borders final from somebody to make sure they were so prepared. I must have got a phone call every couple of days from you. How long will this take? What will I need to do for that? Meticulous you are.
Tenacious.
Tenacious and
meticulous is probably tenacious, maybe.
Tenacious and meticulous, and you wiped the floor off the Scottish Borders Shell Livewire competition, and of course you went on to represent the Scottish Borders at the Shell Livewire competition for Scotland up at Stirling Castle, and you wiped the floor there as well. I mean, it was some achievement that night at Stirling Castle, if I remember.
No, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was brilliant. And did we not win the UK?
Yeah, and that was. I had one of the. Well, I've now actually live in Stirling, and one of the joys I had was driving you right through the courtyard back into Stirling Castle to pick up the tyres that you'd left there overnight. I
needed somebody to give me a lift. So.
But then you went to London and you won the UK Shell Livewire title. That must have been about 2003 or 2004, I think, something like that.
And I tell you what, Jeff, that I mean, we made, I think we got 10 grand for winning that, and that was a lifeline. I mean, make no mistake. I think probably subsequent to that, there was a lot of awards started. We went award crazy for a period. Everybody had some sort of entrepreneur award, and it kind of, I think it diluted the PR and the kind of financial reward that you can make out of these things. But for us, for me, it was two very distinct goals there. It was, to raise the profile of the business, because I couldn't afford to marketing, frankly, and then to get some working capital. And 10 grand for a small business was it was just, what a windfall. It was brilliant. What I did underestimate was the absolute benefit of that profile that it gave me, and it gave the Black Circles business. Then it really was a catalyst. It was really very, very good for us.
But you talk about I talk about meticulous, and I remember on one specific occasion walking into your office in Peebles. I'd been in Edinburgh and I was driving back down to the Borders, and I popped in for a coffee, and you had your wee office set up there, and you were talking about Sir Terry Leahy of Tesco's and how you were going to get him to get involved and all that sort of stuff, and you were rabbiting on to me about this, and you go back. I'm bringing back the books, and you had the books all laid out and the pictures of stuff up on the wall, and the tenacity, as you say,
obsessive,
but the drive to get something done, was just so intense. How do you maintain that throughout your life? Is it a natural thing that you have, or do you have to work hard at that sort of tenacity that you've got?
A good question. I think it's something I've had to learn to control, particularly as I've been getting older, because it's that probably is. I'm not smart. I know what I'm in an industry. I've been in, since I was a kid. So I know the market. I know how which is really important. I think when you start a new business, if you understand your marketplace, you got a real head start. But that probably piece of my character is definitely the bit that just bulldozes the way through a lot of the barriers and the reasons to stop and the reasons why you might quit. But I think as you get older, or more experience, in that, in your market or in your business, you've got to learn to try and use that sparingly, because it doesn't come without its costs. It's easy to burn out, being full blast like that all the time. And my predisposition is just to go all out. But sometimes I just need to kind of calm that sometimes.
But do you know, you were very, I remember many conversations around it, and you knew the numbers, and you were, there was that drive to get the model right around about, because you were working on margins that were very fine, in terms of the business model you had, and scale had to be the thing to make it work.
Yeah,
it was that drive, but you were building a model using, third-party suppliers or fitters that is now a norm with so many other industries, isn't it?
Yeah, having worked in QuickFit, understanding that they had the network, but also understanding from Tom, in various outtakes that was, managing teams, that are so disparate like that in stores was very, very difficult. Partly because getting them motivated, for the job every day is not easy when they're on the payroll. So they kind of thought that we could, that it's a very disparate market. How they had worked in garages, I understand how tough it was for them. So if we could create a kind of cooperative approach of guys like that, we might be able to scale something, and it hadn't been done before. But again, it was kind of like using the internet or building a website in the late 90s. It wasn't, it was more about need, or it's as much about need as it was any vision, because I couldn't afford to open stores, so I needed to borrow somebody else's assets and somebody else's resource, and that kind of became the model, really. Same with supply, try not to take stock. Atalee's the same today. We've got networks of boutiques with their own inventory. We don't buy stock and we don't open stores, but we help other people make the most of what they've got.
Yeah, you said know your market, and there's the old phrase, stick to your knitting, and you know what you're good at, and you focus in and concentrate on that all the time. And then when you moved forward to about whatever it was, 2014, 15, when you were starting to have conversations with Michelin and the next step in your journey. How emotional was that for you at that time, and what was the deciding factor for you in terms of making that doing the deal with Michelin then?
Yeah, it was really tough, actually. We've been talking for a while. I really admire them. I think they're a great company in terms of the industry. There's no better brand, and there's no better organization in terms of the way they conduct themselves. So it was very flattering. But we were at a point in the business where we'd established, it'd been a lot of hard yards. It's 15 years. We'd established stability. We were ready to push on. And I think, invariably the best time to sell a business or to move a business into the next ownership situation is when you least want to. Certainly when the value's there. So it was difficult, and it was a real it was a learning curve for me, because I really had to reconcile myself with the fact that although I could keep going, everybody at that point was talking unicorn, and it was all about billions, and $1 million was nothing, and it was I'm kind of like, look, I like to think I'm a bit of a realist, and I'm looking at the situation and going, look, we've carved out a model here. We've raised very little money to get where we are. All the shareholders are the same guys, with a great group of people. but sometimes good things come to an end, and and I knew that one of the limiting factors for that business moving forward was going to be potentially me. So and that business was so intrinsically linked with me, and I needed there needed to be a change in something, a catalyst for the business to start to bring, create its own identity, stand its own 2 feet, and scale up. And they had huge infrastructure. It wasn't just about cash. They had massive infrastructure. They do things right. And I like to think about, in terms of business and life, actually, carving things out into chapters, and, don't sound too cheesy, but when you close that chapter with, the world's largest and most admired tyre business, certainly in my industry, acquiring your business, that felt like a good kind of bookend to that part of the journey. So that was why I did it. And I struggled actually for a month or so after, because it was almost, it sounds ridiculous, and nobody's going to give me much sympathy for it, because I did very well out of it. But there was a bit of a grieving process for the business, because it wasn't my business anymore. And but it was the right thing to do, and they've done really well as a consequence. So all worked out.
No, I met you quite shortly after that, and we had lunch, and of course you paid, and
you made me pay it. Yeah.
Quite rightly so. But there was that. But the admiring fact, and I always go back through the years with speaking with you, and it was always about not losing equity in that business. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was only ever about 200 grand of
something like
income,
that.
something like that you ever taken that you raised, and you'll be glad of that. And then we now move on to the present day, and of course I was put out of sync because you set up Tyre Scanner in America, and of course I'm out of time because that's now merged or become part of Tyre Buyer in the States as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we did. That was a year in the making. We did it. We've done a deal with a distributor, a tyre distributor in the US, largest in the US and possibly in the world. They had an online tyre business that 10 years old, much bigger than us. So they had a lot of scale, a lot of infrastructure. And we had the strategy. We've kind of got that version 2.0, if you like. So we've been talking about, if we bring these two things together, and create spin this entity out, we could get to where we want to get to a lot quicker. So that evolved, and it all worked out really, really well. So Tyre Buyers, it's much bigger, and we've really got a shot now at doing something really special in the States, because it's such a different, although there's a lot of similarities, it's such a different and difficult market to penetrate and to crack. So we've got a fabulous team, and I think we're in good shape.
No, I'm delighted to watch that progress, as is with Atterley. And I remember the day that you bought I remember the announcement of you buying what was there of Atterley, and I've watched that journey with great interest as you're building that and growing it. There's a couple of last things I want to touch on quite quickly as well, or not quickly, but just before, to make sure we get these in, because one of the things that I'm hugely admiring of is that the work that you've done, and you set up the Welch Trust, and the work with children and young people who are in need of adoption and fostering, and your background and support to that, and it touches me as well, because we have a centre at Rook and Glen Park, and over the course of the next number of months, we're giving space to the Scottish Adoption Society so that they can bring young people there to enjoy the space in our park and to benefit from that. So it's hats off to you for doing that, Mike, with the trust, and what you did out in Bali as well with the school out there. You've always been one for putting stuff back, and I'm delighted to see that.
Yeah, and look, and the thing is, listen, for us, it's not about it's not about the headline, or that it's about, we want to do it, and we're in a position. My wife's a nurse, a pediatric nurse, and we, as you know, I'm fostered and adopted. I've been through that whole process, and you know, we enjoy it. I mean, you know, in terms of a return on, you know, you talk about business return on investment. See if you can make an impact, meaningful impact.
Yeah.
You know, in that way, there's nothing better. You can, you know, that's a proper dividend. You know.
No, and before I just wanted to say we also have a huge love of music. You and I, as you can see from the background, mine's is very different to yours. The music that was introed is one of your tracks from SoundCloud earlier on. So all the people that didn't know that, they've now got an option to go and find your SoundCloud mix out there. But football, we've got a little thing that we want to put on the screen. If Fraser is technically available and able to do this, I thought this would be a little bit of a treat.
Van Dijk with a swing. Important little touch by Eric Dyer. Oh, it comes to Divock Origi! He's won the European Cup for Liverpool! The man who took down Barcelona has taken Tottenham down in Madrid! Number 6 is on its way to Anfield!
Brilliant.
There you go. There's the final whistle, Mike.
Liverpool are the champions of Europe for the 6th time.
Yeah. Hang on. We were there. Yeah.
You were there. So, but there's the connectivity between the two of us, and we have the odd banter back and forward on LinkedIn. Is that your number 26, your left back? He honed his skills down Tannadice Way in Dundee. Mr. Will Robertson, Andy Robertson, and he's got a charity now as well, Mike, AR26, and they're also going to be based at our centre at Rook and Glen throughout the course of the summer, helping young people. So it's a nice wee connection there. And I just couldn't not let you see that, because we all have to have a copy of that in the house, don't we?
Very good. Very good, Jeff. Good literature for you there.
Good literature there. So we've come to the close. We've actually overrun, and I've never allowed myself to overrun. I could speak to you for hours and hours, Mike, because there's just so much good stuff to say. The things I've taken away and I've made a note of is that when you were young, you had this real desire to re-educate and learn what you needed to do, but also by doing it in a way that actually was a learning by doing way, and when it had a meaning to do something, it really helped you. The second thing I always take away from you is that real know your market piece. Stick to your knitting and actually know every detail. That detail that you bring to it. And the third thing I always take from you is never be afraid to bring the people that you need to the party. And whether it was Graham Bissett, whether it was Terry Leahy, and all these people, and never be afraid to have ambition to ask those people, because the worst thing that you can say is no. So,
and always say thank you, Jeff. Always say that. Never forget the folks who help you out. Always say thanks.
Always say thanks. And on that note, thank you very much, Mike Welch. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. This will be available on Facebook, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. And I look forward to watching or reading, Mike, as you say, the next chapter in the Mike Welch story. Thank you very much. All the rest. Ciao. Cheers now.
Bye-bye.